Hello and welcome everybody back to Alloy 7. Tonight, let's talk about some of the reasons why your channel is not growing. Tonight specifically, I want to focus on the failure to set proper goals. You can interchange the word goals with priorities. What the focus is tonight is really having an idea of what success looks like to you before you ever go out on the mission. So if you're on last night's live call, you heard me say, you can't start a war if you don't have the definition of what victory is in mind. And while you may not have every piece of it figured out, you have to have some idea of what success looks like to you before you attempt to run out there and get success. Otherwise, when you get it, you won't know that you got it because you haven't laid a foundation of setting proper goals. And that means also not just setting proper priorities, because you've got to set your priorities to get you toward the goals, but it also means setting boundaries. We talked last night about the idea of investing and divesting, or where you're going to play in terms of strategy and the choice between where you're going to play and where you're not going to play. But that's really what we want to focus on tonight, is making sure that you're setting proper goals. And what I find with a lot of the YouTubers that I've worked with, one of the main questions I'll get asked on a semi-regular basis is this one here. Is it still possible for a creator to get 1 million subscribers? And the answer to that question is always yes, it's still absolutely possible. Well, the problem is this shouldn't in and of itself be your goal, any more than a business's goal should be to set out to make $1 million. Now, you may start a business and want to earn $1 million or $1 million or millions of dollars, and that's okay. But your primary aim can't be the money, no more than your primary aim, your goals, your objectives, what you're setting as your measurements of success can't just be, let me get 1 million subscribers. So let's address the possibility question right off the bat, because it's one that I get fairly often. Is it still possible to get 1 million subscribers? Yes, and here's the reason why. It's simple mathematics. On YouTube, there are 1,000 times 1 million people. In other words, there's over 1 billion people on YouTube, and 1 billion is nothing more than 1,000 1 millions. So there's 1,000 of these 1 million people out there. It's theoretically possible that you could get one out of that 1,000, which would equal 1 million. So is it possible? Absolutely. But the problem is you've set your sights on this lofty goal of having 1 million subscribers without any real purpose or weight behind it. Okay, and that's why in a lot of respects your channels aren't growing, because you either have no goals, you've just started a YouTube channel because you thought it would be fun to play video games in your basement and try to make money doing it, or you just thought it would be fun to have a YouTube channel. And that's totally cool for anybody that's watching that's just a hobbyist that wants to improve their craft. That's perfectly fine. What we're talking about here will help you. But for those of you who I focus on, which are the folks who actually want to be able to build something of value on YouTube and then earn money from the value. So first, you have to sow before you reap. You have to give before you get. So in order for you to get money from the work that you do on YouTube, you first have to give somebody something that's worth the money they may give you, or the attention and time they may give you, which may translate into dollars when you look at the YouTube advertising model or AdSense. All right, so these are the things that we want to walk through tonight. And really, I've basically boiled it down into 3 general areas where most YouTubers are focused in terms of their goals. And I want to show you where some of the challenges are with having those goals, but also how to actually get to them if indeed those goals are yours. With that said, if what I'm saying makes sense to you and you're hyped about what we're going to be talking about tonight, go ahead and type in the comments section, "I'm hyped." Go ahead and put that in there for me. Let me see what the comments are saying thus far. We've got That Samurai Life says, "Hey, my first live stream with BC. Welcome, Samurai Life. Very glad to have you." iFlame says, "What up, B?" Yo, what's up from Rico's Reef? He says, "I know why I'm lazy." Good. Then you can change your laziness into productivity. Hopefully, you can switch gears there. So, If you're hyped about what we're going to talk about tonight, go ahead and write in the comment section. Go ahead and let me know that you're hyped. So basically, I see most of the goals that YouTubers set fall into 3 buckets. Okay, first one. All right. And while most creators wouldn't call it fame, that's essentially one of the main things when you talk about wanting to get tons of subscribers. You know, and the simple way to define that, if I had to use one word for it, is fame. You want a lot of people to follow what you do. By the way, there's nothing wrong with wanting 1 million subscribers, right? Like we've said in previous videos, and I always use 1 million just kind of as it's a number that everybody kind of flocks to. Obviously, you may want more than that, you may want less than that. The number is not really as relevant as understanding the principle. But you want a lot of people to follow what you do, whether you're an artist, whether you're a musician, whether you're a gamer, whether you're like a DIY channel where you provide help to people, people, noobs like me who don't know how to fix things. I'm not a Mr. Fix-It type dude unless it's electronic or computer based. And so I will go on some DIY channels to figure out how to fix a busted toilet because I don't have that knowledge. Or, I've gone on, before there was YouTube, going on the internet and buying books to help me fix my car, so that rather than taking a car, I don't have the car anymore, but I used to have an older Honda Accord back in the day, and the EGR valve had to be replaced. So instead of turning it over to the dealer, who's going to charge me $300 for a $200 part, and then $200 an hour for labor, I'm going to pay $1,000 for something I could just order the part for $100, remove the bolts and clean it and put basically treat it properly and put it into the Honda myself for $100 and 2 hours on a Friday. So that's value. You may want a lot of people to follow what it is that you're doing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe to you, that definition of fame is that 1 million number. Maybe it's 10 million, maybe it's 40 million, maybe it's 100,000, maybe it's 1,000 people. You have to define that for yourself. But this is the first kind of major area where I see people, their curiosity is, how can I do something? People ask me all the time, what's the best place in social media for me to go promote my work? And I tell them, well, you don't want to look at social media just as a platform for you to promote your work, because unless what you're promoting is inherently valuable to another human being. In other words, if I'm posting a solution to a problem. So the way most of you figured out who I was, I did a series of monetization videos where I taught people I had a solution to a problem, and then I went and promoted that. But to be honest with you, a lot of it promoted itself because it was something very valuable to, basically 1 million people could potentially find value in that, because there's essentially, the last time Google released their numbers, there's 1 million YouTube partners. So there's 1 million people who could benefit from this information. When I created that video for Tim Schmoyer, it's over 1 million views now. It doesn't mean that 1 million people watched it. It could be a couple 100,000 have watched it more than once. But the point is, that video got a lot of viewership. It got a lot of fame or clout because it provided something that was of extreme value to a creator that was hoping to earn money for the hard work that they were doing. Okay, so setting a goal for fame, whether it's subscribers or whether it's just building a huge community around what you're doing, the problem with this is most people that I work with think fame works like this. I make something cool or something that I'm passionate about, and I share it with enough people throughout the world, and eventually enough people will realize how awesome I am, and they'll just naturally want to come watch me talk while I'm playing video games, or they'll naturally want to watch me and my interesting life in my vlog, or they will naturally want to come watch me do artwork. But what's missing here in the fame example a lot of times is value. And it's an issue with human beings when you start talking about cognitive biases, and that just means ways our brain is wired to think that don't necessarily serve us well in the modern world, or like logical fallacies. And one of those is what's called over optimism. And when you look at, like, for example, when the markets crashed a little under 10 years ago, one of the things that was plaguing Americans when you talk to the financial experts, more than anything, more than, you know, banks being evil and a lot of the conspiracy theory nonsense that you'll hear if you turn on YouTube and you listen to a bunch of people that don't know what they're talking about. One of the things that people who actually do know what they're talking about will tell you that not the only thing, obviously, there were some banks who were complicit in doing things that were arguably fraudulent. I'm not saying that there wasn't ill that was done, but when people give you a blanket, simple answer, this, oh, banks are evil, that's why the market crashed, that's too simple. And, you know, Nietzsche once said that the more complicated an answer is or a fact is, the harder you have to work to get people to pay attention to it. So when someone who seemingly knows what they talk about because they're in news media or they're popular and they're on television or YouTube, when they say, oh, it's just the banks are evil, that's easier to accept because our brains don't have to work hard to process that. And our brains are wired not to process information that it doesn't need to survive. Okay, so over-optimism is one of the things that a lot of the YouTubers I work with struggle. I can't tell you how many folks have sent me messages like, dude, I'm one step away from being famous. If I could just get people to watch my show, I know I'd be famous because my show is that good. And a lot of times, one of the things we cover in the Ninja Academy in the paid session is exactly like I address this. And now most creators will play the humble role and they'll tell you, well, I don't think they won't necessarily be that guy that I told you about a second ago. That's my content's awesome and I'm about to be famous. They'll downplay it and say, my content I don't think is particularly great. And they'll say that in word, but then when you look at their work ethic and you look at how much studying they do, you know, and I look at how much people study the stuff that I put out because I can see the statistics. When you look at how they train, they do have over-optimism and they do think their content is better than it is. Otherwise, you know, they can tell me and give me lip service that, oh, I don't think my content is amazing, but you behave like you think your content is amazing because you're not studying, you're not reading, you're not consuming videos like these. You know, I got people that complain that, oh, these teaching videos you do are 2 hours long. And they're not being rude about it. Everyone's, you know, fairly positive because we run a positive show here. But people say, man, I really wish you could do this in a 20-minute show. Well, what do you want? Like, do you want the right answers? Or I won't say the right answers. Do you want the best answers that I know as of right now today? Or do you want me to just give you a 5-minute BS tips video where I'm like, here's what some blog said about the 6 things you can do to your channel that's just going to skyrocket your success. How many of those blogs have you applied what they said and then seen immediate results? You know, and I'm not saying that the blogs are bad. A lot of them do provide good information, but it's not the comprehensive information you need to be able to actually implement to see the success that you want. So what I find with a lot of people who want fame is they don't understand their value because nobody's taught them how to develop that, and they're overly optimistic about how good their content is. Like, if I could just get people to watch me, I know for a fact that I would be famous. And what I'm here to tell you is that's probably not true, because there's a lot that goes into, for example, videos going viral. And just so you understand, a lot of people that have viral videos aren't necessarily famous after the fact. They do that one video. It doesn't lend them a great deal of subscribers because there's no value add there, and then there's no call to action that helps people. There's nothing in the video that makes somebody want to subscribe. You just gave them, you know, a quick fix of entertainment or whatever it is that you provided them that was useful in the moment. You haven't been taught how to actually cultivate an audience and a community around your vision. And so you can get 25 million people to watch your video, but then nobody subscribes to your channel. You know, and you can see evidence of that in the people who upload movie clips all the time. Those movie clips will have, you know, 100 million views sometimes, but then you look at the channel and it's like 8 subscribers because there's no value, there's no community there. When people subscribe to your channel, they're subscribing to you. I've said that many times. So until you understand how to infuse you into the value that you are providing, that you're not going to see what you consider fame if that fame is people subscribing to your channel. And so we have to eliminate this tendency we have to think that what we do is better than what it is. And like I said, most human beings will sit here and tell you in words that what I do is not that awesome, but then when you look at how much work they're putting in, they do believe their work is better than it is, because if they truly believe that their work wasn't all that great, then they would be doing everything in their power to make it great. And remember, great, when I say great, I'm not talking about audio quality. I'm not talking about you figuring out ways to get copyrighted music into your videos or having the best visual quality. I film almost everything I do on my phone. Why? Because the value in what I produce is not in visual fidelity. It's in the information and the wisdom of the people way smarter than me, the knowledge of people way smarter than me that I pass on. So I could spend a lot of time buying up a bunch of DSLRs. Actually, I have them, but I don't use them because I don't need to. My value to you is not in my aesthetic production. It's in what I'm providing to you in terms of knowledge. And I purposefully keep the videos that way because I don't want people getting distracted by, oh, this video sounds great, or he has a great voice, or I like the video editing that he did here. I purposefully don't do that because I want you focused on what actually matters. Remember, if you were here last night, you heard me talking about the difference between tactics and strategy. And 99% of creators that I work with are so focused on tactics, they've given no thought to strategy. And thus, they're telling me the horror story about they've been on YouTube since 2006 and they still only have 3,000 subscribers, or their watch time hasn't seen any perpetual increase. They're not getting the engagement on their channel the way that they want to. It is because in most cases you'll find that people are overly optimistic about how good their content is. All right, so I think people really misunderstand humility. Like, they'll look at a person, and I've said this before, they'll look at a person like Michael Jordan, and they'll talk about how cocky and arrogant he was. But when you look at how he practiced, and when you look at how he took advice from his coaches and his teammates, and when you listen to his coaches, they're like, he's one of the best people I've ever coached in terms of listening and applying what I've taught him. It's because he has the humility to know like I said, he's smart enough to know that he's dumb enough to need to ask for help. And again, that's not an insult. I'm not calling Michael Jordan dumb. What I'm saying is I'm smart enough to know that I'm dumb enough to need to get other people smarter than me to give me information so that I can be good at what I do. All right. So with fame, getting a big audience or community around what you do is a perfectly viable goal. But you have to understand first how to add value to another human being. And that's first and foremost. And that comes from having good strategy like we talked about last night. And you can't fall into the trap of over-optimism where you start smelling yourself and thinking you're better than you are. And then you forget to infuse value, and you stop training, you stop learning, you stop coming on shows like this and shows like what Tim Schmoyer does and shows like what Daryl Eves does and shows like what Roberto does, because you think, oh, now I got 100,000 subscribers, I'm good. But the people who, like going back to the Michael Jordan example, Phil Jackson used to make them practice chest passes and bounce passes every day of practice. Why? Because smart people understand that what helps you win in the long run is mastery of the fundamentals. Okay, so what you'll see me talking about a lot of times is fundamental knowledge that helps you then build on the more complicated things that helps you win. But at the end of the day, that base, that foundation of your house, if you will, for lack of a better analogy, is set up with the fundamentals. It's getting the little simple things right so that when you're faced with the more complex, you have success. Let's take some comments before we move into number 2 here. We've got hype from Eternal Fragment. Hype Train from Anna. What's up, Anna? Super Hype says Kit Roll Up. Just Genius says Hypation. I'm hype. Hype says Samurai Life. Rico's Reef says, yo, you need a book club, B. I'm getting ready to have one, but it's a little different. It's not gonna be Alloy 7 related. But stay tuned, that is coming. Phoenix Gaming says, yay, made it this time, sweet. Peter Lopez says, not sure which platform is the best platform to promote material, but which would you recommend, and is implementing hashtag. Okay, so I just talked about that in the beginning. I'm going to assume, Peter, that you came on after I gave my sermon about how people misunderstand social media, but we will cover that here in a second. I'll go back over it. So Five Bell says, finally caught a live stream, glad to be here, and we're glad to have you. So let's jump into Peter's question about, and we'll tie it into fame, promotion. Where is the best place to promote my work? And this is what we were just talking about, but it bears repeating because it is one of the fundamental truths that we need to understand. People always ask me, what's the best social media platform to promote my work on? And I'm like, there isn't a best. There is an optimal platform depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But more importantly, again, that's a tactical thing. If you had been on last night's call, and it's okay that you weren't, I'll go over it. Most YouTubers, when they come to me, they're focused on, I need to get my channel art, I need to get my logo straight, I need to have my video schedule. B, can you tell me what are the best days to upload? B, can you tell me how to monetize Grand Theft Auto videos? B, I want to use this Miley Cyrus song in my video. Hey B, what's the best place to spam everybody with my video so I can get 1 million people to watch them? And the answer to all those questions is cut it out and figure out how to actually build a sustainable strategy that will bring you success. So the example I used was my monetization video that did over 1 million views. And the reason why it did wasn't because I went to Twitter or Facebook and blasted it all. In fact, I don't think I posted that video anywhere. It got 1 million views because it provided, number one, value. 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 The best way to promote your work is to make work that promotes itself. You know, if I develop tonight in my, office studio here, if I developed the cure for cancer, how much advertising do you think I would need to do to get people to want that? And let's say I was charging a nominal fee. I'm charging $5 a head to get the cure. Let's use AIDS because that's a little bit more dire, and there are treatments out there for cancer. But let's say I come up with the cure that eradicates AIDS with no side effects. And tonight I come up with that here in my office studio, right here next to my fireplace, which you can't see, which is off camera. And so I can I can post that to one friend on Facebook and say, hey, I just made the cure for AIDS and I'm charging $5 a head. By the end of the night, I will have 1 billion people interested. There's not 1 billion people that have AIDS, I don't think. But 1 billion people will be interested in the story and everything surrounding how I came up with the cure. And there'll be quite a handful of people who are interested in getting in contact with me to hand me $5. Why? Because I'm giving them something that can save their life. That's not only inherently, but that is violently valuable to a human being who has that virus. Right? So, when people come to me with what's the best, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, there is no best. There's optimal. It's not that you don't use those platforms to promote, but most of you don't understand promotion. You think because you have over-optimism, and I'm not accusing you, by the way, Peter. I've been working with people. I've been coaching a very long time, not just in YouTube, but in every facet of life. So nobody really throws anything at me that I haven't seen in my 20 years of coaching people since I was a teenager, okay? So you got to understand, this over-optimism has people thinking, well, if I can just find the right platform and the right message, 1 million people are going to come watch this video because I know my video is great. But it's not great. Because if it were great, you wouldn't have to work as hard to promote it. You know what I mean? You would want to promote it, don't get me wrong, but you want a video that sells itself in some way, shape, or form to an audience that you've chosen to get. Now, I picked AIDS because that's a very easy one to make my point. Obviously, not many of you are going to come up with videos on YouTube that are equivalent to the value of a cure for HIV or AIDS. But I just use that to illustrate the point. Drug dealers never have to take out ads in a newspaper, other than the fact that their enterprise is illegal. They don't ever have to put out ads because word of mouth takes care. The people who want to take part in that lifestyle know how to go find the people that are selling it because they want it really bad. What are you making, Peter, and everybody else that's watching, that people want really bad? And if you're not making anything that people want really bad, then you can forget about getting fame or getting a lot of people to follow what you're doing. Okay? And that's how I have to reshape your thinking, because I don't know what happened. I've been around since before the internet existed. I understand human psychology and biology, so I kind of do understand why this is the case. But the internet of creators has become this place where everyone is bought into this delusion, myth, lie, I don't know what to call it, that if I can just get my thing in front of somebody, everybody's going to love it. And it doesn't work like that. Like, even if I teach you everything I know about search engine optimization, at the end of the day, even if I can get what you're doing in front of a ton of people, if it's not something that gives those people that you're targeting great value, they're not going to engage with it. I'll give you an example. I did a short kind of live stream series for a game that I was really excited about. And one of the videos ranks first on YouTube. Just for the terms that I chose and the audience I picked, it ranks first. It'll probably rank first forever. And it did like 1,000 views. To me, that's nothing. When I have videos that have done so look at the video I've done that has 1 million views, and then look at this one, and that one doesn't even rank as high. And then look at the one that ranks first. This one provides less value. So it would be kind of naive of me to believe that just because I can get it in front of somebody, 1 million people are going to watch it when there's not 1 million people who are interested in it. And that's really what I want to drive home for all of you, is if your goal, remember, the failure to set goals is what we're talking about here tonight. If you're going to set a goal that is, I want to have a lot of people following me, you have to make content that a lot of people want to consume, and you have to be the type of personality that a lot of people want to be around. I can't make it any simpler than that. There's no trick, there's no formula that I can give you that's going to change those two facts. Not SEO, not, clever ways to try to manipulate, tags and titles and things of that nature. Those little things can help you. But remember, SEO is a tool. It's not an end-all, be-all solution to the problem of people not making great content. Okay? You don't make great content, even all the SEO in the world may get a lot of people to it, but then it can also harm you, because you get a lot of people who are watching your video for a second and a half, realize this video to them sucks, and then they bounce. That actually is going to hurt your video in the long run more than it's going to help it. So you're going to do yourself a better service. You're going to stop worrying about what social media platform you need to be on, because right now, I imagine, based on looking at the fact that you still have an icon, that you haven't done too much with your channel. Maybe you have, but if I'm right now you don't need to be worried about anything but YouTube and building the strategy and setting the proper goals and objectives for your YouTube channel, and then mapping out a plan to help you get to those goals, and then implementing the plan. And then once you get momentum and you start to see people wanting to be a part of what you do, then you can start thinking about, okay, now that I have, let's say, 1,000 followers, that's kind of 1,000 followers is my litmus test for, not litmus test, 1,000 followers is my minimum follower base before I jump onto another platform with something that I'm working on. So like right now with my personal YouTube channel, I don't have a Twitter for it. I don't have a Snapchat for it. I don't have, all these separate things, all these separate social media outlets, because right now, I've been working on it for a little under or over a month actively, and I'm at about 500 followers. When I get to 1,000, then I'll start to think about, okay, now I can cross-pollinate and I can build social media into my strategy. But right now, I'm 100% focused on just serving the handful of people who are following me on YouTube and giving them the content that they desperately want and that they ask me for in the engagement. Okay, so you're not going to worry about those tactical things right now. You're going to worry about the bigger picture, which is coming up with a strategy for how you are going to add value to somebody's life such that they'll want to be a part of what you're doing and give you of their time and maybe even of their money to support what you're doing, because it's helping them and it's helping other people. And people always love being a part of something that's helping them. Humans are wired selfishly, and I don't mean that to be derogatory or insulting. It's how we've learned how to survive. A little bit of selfishness is not wrong. That's why in a plane, when they do the little security briefing, they tell you put your mask on first before you try to put on a mask on your child, because if you're dead, you can't help your child. So a little bit of selfishness and self-concern is healthy. All right, but when you're a creator, you have to think selflessly and start thinking about, what are the selfish desires of the people who are watching me? And how can I tap into that, creating content that they really want such that they'll want to be a part? Okay, hopefully that helped you out, Peter. Let's see what else we got. Just Q says, what's up? Samurai Life says, you never know. A random chicken appears. Excellent. My channel is growing at a good pace for me. Excellent. Good. So that's number one. Let's talk about number two. Go ahead and screenshot this, my friends, if you don't have it already. Remember, fame, or you can substitute fame with large following, because you may not want to be, like for me, let me get a quick side note here before we jump into number two. Fame can be taken a lot of different ways. Like for me, for example, I don't necessarily want to be famous. Like I don't necessarily want to be on TV and magazines and have people talking about me all the time, but I want to reach and help a ton of people. You understand the difference there? Like I don't need to be on Dave Letterman. You know, like I would do something like that if it were going to help me help more people, but I wouldn't necessarily want to go on David Letterman just for my sake, because I'm not that type of social creature where I love being in the limelight and the fame and the attention. Like, I enjoy entertaining and empowering people, but I don't like and especially if you look at my personality type, we don't deal with compliments easily. Like, it makes us feel awkward. So getting that kind of limelight, for me, it's not really my bag. Like, I don't want to be PewDiePie. You know what I mean? That's not winning to me. I don't want 40 million people waiting to see what's the next trick I'm going to do to make them laugh or to be their personal jester, which is what PewDiePie has essentially become for a lot of people. Not all. I think he does make some insightful content along with some of the comedy that he does. But for me, that's not winning. Like, I don't want that type of fame. Like, I want to be known as a dude, like in a book somewhere, that legitimately changed people's lives for the better. And if fame comes along with that, that's cool, but I don't necessarily want the publicity. You know, I don't want to be doing TV interviews, because I've lived that life to a smaller degree as a corporate guy. I had to be on the news and involved with different things across the world. In fact, I even worked on Capitol Hill with Congress and things of that nature. And that's not really the life for me. It's not what I want. So remember, fame is not necessarily just being famous and everybody knowing your name. Sometimes it's just about amassing a large group of people, at least for me, and you'll see when we get to number 3 why this is important. You want to get a ton of people that are following you because you know you have something that you can help them with. And that's going to be number 3 when we get into it. So I just want to say, for anybody that's like me, fame isn't just about being Kim Kardashian, all right? Don't want you to confuse the two. All right, so you can, if you missed it, you can rewind once the video goes live and screenshot it. Remember, these videos are what I do as a part of the YouTube Ninja Academy. So I leave them up and live for a certain amount of time so that people can watch them, but eventually I put them into our paid area. So they're free, and some of them I keep up forever, but like this series is eventually going to become part of our either our green belt or our blue belt program in the academy, which means they'll come down from public view and just be for the folks who are supporting us. So definitely take notes so that if you're here live and you're watching this, if this is one of those videos where I'm just giving it to the public for free for a limited amount of time, because I like to give more stuff away than I sell, just be aware of that. So get your screenshots in, copy as much as you can. Let's talk about number 2. So we talked about fame, right? People very often want to amass a bigger audience. They want to have what we call fame. People also want to get more money. So the way I approach this is we're not going to just talk about failure to set goals, but we're going to talk about setting the right goals, okay? And a lot of people that I work with, basically, like I said, there's 3 areas people want. They want more followers, they want more money, or in YouTube's case, they want more views. But I think there's a third one that's more important that we're going to get into, which I think is the most valuable out of the 3. And people want more money, right? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say that there's nothing wrong with you wanting more money, because with what I always think about is a company that does good. When the company gets more money, they're able to do more good. Now, a lot of people in the world, especially, I've been in the gaming space for a very long time, and there's a lot of cynicism around building wealth, about earning money from your craft, and people who think YouTubers that earn money for what they do or they shouldn't earn money, but that's foolish, because if you're not earning money in a capitalistic system, you're not eating, okay? So we get this idea that earning more money is this evil thing, and we look at these, especially with game publishers, I'll use them as an example, where they make billions upon billions of dollars, okay? And a lot of people will look at a company, they'll look at an indie company that's struggling, and they're wonderful because they don't really make a lot of money, but they make great things. And then they'll look at an Activision and they'll say Activision, and they've talked about the CEO and how he's evil. And same thing with EA, was voted for a number of years as the worst company on the planet. which I always think is funny that there's like the people who write those ridiculous articles think there's an objective way to measure that and compare it against other types of companies globally. I've always thought that was kind of weird, but not to say that they don't have measurements in the articles, because I'm sure there's a couple pitchfork gamers that are watching this getting angry right now. That's okay. But my point is, we have a tendency to focus on the negative and the cynical side of things. And so people will bash Sony, or they'll bash Microsoft and talk about how Microsoft's just a bunch of money grubbers, not realizing that the money they make in video games. Like, I think they just keep the video game space open. This is my personal opinion. The only reason Microsoft's still making video games is because they're collecting data to do AR. Like, it's like Kinect was how basically the kind of introduction into the way that they were going to do things like machine learning and AR and, you know, bots like Cortana. Kinect was just a way for them to test some of this other stuff that they want to make, because the amount of money they make in video games is ridiculous compared to enterprise software and the other things that they make. So I'm saying all that to say is a lot of people will get cynical about people making more money. But what I always argue is that a good company that has good intentions and takes good action, more good than they do bad. And remember, a lot of times the bad actions that a company takes aren't necessarily always, some cases they are. There's the Enrons of the world that were ridiculous, but in a lot of cases, it's a company making a decision that just didn't work the way it was intended, and it comes across as the company trying to shice their customers, which is rarely the case, because a company that gets into the billions understands the principles that a person like Peter Drucker teaches, which for you to get to that level, you have to serve other people. So they are more incentivized to do good by you than bad, because doing good by you is how they make more money. So you'll hear people a lot of times, one example I'll toss out is how Sony switched from charging for online service, switched from not charging to charging. And most people get bent out of shape about, oh, they're charging us to use the internet. And it's like, well, wait a minute. If they're building more revenue streams into their system, think about the positive side of that. That the more money they have, the more things you like they're able to make. You know, people always go to, well, they have trillions of dollars in cash in a bunker somewhere, and they don't. A lot of times, like when you look at it, like take Walt Disney, for example. When you really start to study economics and you study how businesses work and you study the history of businesses, you can look at a person like Walt Disney, you know that dude was on the verge of bankruptcy his entire life until he died. He was always like one screw up away from bankruptcy. He wasn't like, he had money and assets, don't get me wrong, but one wrong move and that could have been a different story. You know, fortunately it worked out for him, and they've been wildly successful even after he passed. But the point is, we have to start to look at the positive of earning money. And I'm starting with the positive because I'm going to get into not the negative, but the less than optimal way that people focus on money. So the positive is, if you're doing good work that's doing good for good people, if I give you more money, you are able to do more good. I think that's the system I want to live in. If I'm doing something that's adding value to your life, I want people to look at me and say, you know what, if I give BC, if I give Brian more money, he's going to be able to help that much more in the world. He's going to be able to affect that much more positive change because he has access to more resources that he didn't have before. When you look at businesses, when they go out to get investors, that's really what they're pitching is, here's the value. Here's your opportunity to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. Because remember, a lot of investors are already wealthy. They're not always necessarily looking for a return on their investment that's monetary. Sometimes they are. But the point is, people want to give to something that's doing good. And, you know, we look at companies like Activision or Sony and Electronic Arts, and we look at the short part of time, relatively short, where they've made some really bad decisions. And those decisions haven't gone well, or like what Ubisoft did with, you know, Assassin's Creed and launching it before it was ready, and et cetera, et cetera. We'll focus and hone and make pitchfork videos about that, but we won't go back to 1979 and look at what Activision was doing to lead to this point of providing, in some cases, great games for people to enjoy for decades. We'll just focus on, you know, the fact that now in the way the gaming economics works, they have to, you know, churn out Call of Duty all the time because it's such a money-making system for them. But them making that money then gives them more research and development resources to go out and make new and better things. But those things take time. And when companies get bigger, they get a little bit more risk averse. So there is some of that too. But my encouragement to you is not to look at money as this evil thing that rich people are using to hoard. And because Peter Drucker says it Will Durant in The Lessons of History says it very well, and I'm going to paraphrase and probably butcher the quote, but he says, the last thing a wise man would hoard is money. And that was coming from some of the biggest money managers throughout history. And I don't mean just American history, I mean history. Because they realized that the time value of money is always decreasing. $100 today will not be worth $100 100 years from now. It'll be worth nothing. You feel me? So making more money, if I haven't foot stomped the point home, is not a bad thing. But the problem is, it's when you make making money your goal, then that becomes your focus. Is now everything you're doing is about how you perceive making money. So here's how I want to reframe it for you. Instead of having a goal that is, I want to make more money, here's what I want you to do. I want you to add more value, okay? And in your strategic planning, I do want you to have and this is straight from Peter Drucker, this is not me, so you don't have to, this isn't my wisdom or my knowledge, this is knowledge I'm taking from people way smarter than me. All right? So if people want to question it, question Peter Drucker, don't question me. So you are going to need, if you're going to be running your YouTube channel as a business and a way to feed you and your family, which is what a lot of you tell me you want to do, first you've got a lot of work ahead of you. It's probably not going to happen overnight, okay? Not saying it can't, but don't expect it to, because that would be an exception to the rule, and you never want to build your strategy around anomalies and exceptions, because the chances of that happening for you are slim to none. So instead of making more money your goal now becomes, I am going to add more value to as many people as I possibly can within my target audience, okay? And then in my strategic objectives, goals, and my strategic planning, I am going to have not a money goal, but I'm going to have a money requirement. So what the requirement tells you is, here's how much money it's going to take for me to run this operation. So let's say you're renting office space where you're setting up film gear, like depending on the type of show you're doing. Let's say you need to buy equipment, you need to have office space that you're paying on every month, you need to hire employees to do your editing. You know, like me, I hire an accountant, and I hire, designers, and I hire people to help me do what I'm doing here. I don't do it all by myself. I don't hire a film crew because my goal here is not to produce amazing videos. Amazing visual quality videos, but I have a money requirement for the people that I pay at Alloy 7, and I have a money requirement for how much money do I need to keep doing this when, first of all, Alloy 7 is by no means my primary source of income. It's supplementary, and it's something I do on the side because I'm passionate about coaching and helping people, but there is a requirement that I have in writing that I've shared with my business coaches and my mentors and said, look, this is what I need to make for this to work. And that, the number can be higher than what you're getting right now, okay? You can have a money requirement, but you don't want the money to be your goal, because if the money is your goal, then you're going to become an opportunist. You're going to start chasing things that make you money. That means I'm going to start making videos that aren't what I want to make, because the type of videos that could get me a lot of money very quickly, more so than building a valuable audience and earning money a little bit more gradually, are very different from the type of content that I would enjoy making. So if I make money my goal, that means I'm going to start chasing that, and I'm going to lose sight of what my real goal is, which is to add value to other human beings. I'm going to basically disenfranchise them, disenfranchise myself, and then as YouTube says, if you can't keep you happy and you can't keep an audience happy, then you don't have a channel. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's one of the things they teach you in certification when you go through YouTube's certification process. So it's okay to have a money requirement. That's the point here with number 2. But do not make, I have to make more money, this overarching big picture goal. Okay, like you can have, smaller goals within your strategy that say, I want to increase revenue by 3% every year. That's totally fine. Okay? But saying, I'm going to build a YouTube channel because I want to make $7 million a year like PewDiePie, that's a foolish goal. Okay? That could be like a long-term vision thing. Like, I'd one day like to build this into $1 million enterprise. That's okay to kind of have a big picture vision, but it's not really a strategy or a goal. You want to set goals that you can actually hit within 6 to 18 months. Okay, when you're looking at your strategy, you don't want a strategy that's 10 years. Like, people do their, strategic planning. Like, here's my 10-year strategy. Like, so much of the world's gonna, like, is YouTube even gonna be here in 10 years? And that's one of the things we talk about in the Ninja Academy. And I have links in the description, by the way, for any of you that are interested in the Ninja Academy, whether you want to be in the green belt, the blue belt, or the black belt program, or in the VIP program. I just set up the VIP program on the website so that you no longer have to email me. You can actually become a VIP by just going through the progression. But it's one of the things I teach is what's your strategy for if YouTube goes down tomorrow? Because like I said last night, if you're on the call last night, I told you, YouTube for me is a tool. YouTube is not the means to my end. YouTube just happens to be the most viable tool for me to get my message out right now today. I could easily switch over to doing Facebook video and not lose a wink of sleep and still find my audience, still be able to work with my audience and do what I do. Now, granted, I wouldn't be doing YouTube coaching if YouTube crashed, but YouTube coaching, again, is not my primary focus. It's just something I do because I enjoy coaching and I enjoy working with YouTubers, and I'm a YouTuber myself. Okay? So that's what I help them think through. What are you going to do, gamer, if YouTube crashes tomorrow? And Google just says, you know what? We don't want to run this thing anymore. Now, the likelihood of that happening is not very high. Okay? YouTube's doing quite well. But you have to think about those things when you're doing your strategy. So what would you do if tomorrow YouTube wasn't a thing? Well, if you had already figured out my whole goal is to build an audience around what I'm doing by adding value, and my goal is to make more money because I'm adding value. So really what you want this to be when it comes to making more money, this isn't a goal, this is a result. More money comes as the result of adding more value. That's the way you need to think about money. It's also the way you need to think about subscribers and views and watch time. More watch time, more views, more ad revenue, more subscribers come when you add more value. It's as simple as that. You give a human something they like, and the cognitive bias of reciprocal altruism will kick in, and they'll want to give you something back of equal value. It's just the way it is. Like, hold the door. Like, you want to test me on that? Go to the mall where there's 2 sets of doors and you hold the door for a guy to get in or a lady. I bet you money they hold the second door for you because they feel almost obligated now to give something back to you. All right? Cool. So more money. More money's not bad, but it can't be your overarching vision and goal for why you're doing YouTube. It has to be, making money has to be a requirement, and you have to look at money as the result. The more value I put in, the more money I pull out of what I do. It's as simple as that. That works for investing, that works for building a business, that works for getting in shape in the gym. The more time you put in, time under tension, one of the things we talk about when I'm trying to help people build muscle, you spend that time under tension, your muscles magically get bigger. And then for my people who, I build muscle and I build muscle size, but I also build strength. I like to be balanced in case I need to be able to push a car off of me. I want to be able to do it. So, there's different type of workouts I do when I'm putting in the time to be able to lift, to be able to curl, whatever I curl now, 145 pounds, however many times I do it. But that comes from putting in time and putting in the effort. It doesn't come just because I want it or because I made it my goal. It's because I added value by going to the gym and doing the work. Okay? Go ahead and screenshot number 2. Let me take some comments from the comment section here. The Super Fat Turkey says, I agree with the bullet. You make great tutorials. Excellent. Real talk, says G7 Games. Cool. The Super Fat Turkey says this is great. A lot. Yeah, all I do is real talk, guys. I'm not gonna BS you. I refuse, and this is why I don't do like multiple videos a week, because one, that would burn me out doing this type of stuff, and two, the kind of kitschy, here's how YouTube, and there's nothing wrong with those tips videos. I understand why they exist, but the here's 3 ways YouTube Red's gonna earn you more money, it's just not me. Like, that stuff's cool, but it's tactical. It's not gonna help you in the long run build something that you can look back 10 years from now and be like, yo, I applied these principles and now I'm really sitting pretty. 3 ways the AdSense policy change. Like, for example, when everybody's freaking out over the demonetization policy change, which wasn't a policy change. It was YouTube just basically telling you, hey, remember how we said we can demonetize anything we want? Yeah, well, we're going to tell you we're doing it now. And then YouTube, as it's prone to do, because people don't read the stuff they sign there, freaked out. And I'm not making videos to sit here and tell you about, I'm not going to make the fear. Like, I saw a couple real popular YouTubers. I'm not going to name names because I'm not in the business of calling people out or trying to pull meals out of people's mouths. They earn their money the way they do. I'm not going to disrespect them. But I will say that somebody showed me some videos and it was clearly fear-mongering. Like, it had the scary music from like Unsolved Mysteries in it, and is YouTube keeping us from, like, go jump off a cliff? I'm not making that type of content. And the reason why, like, I know why they make it, because like me, they understand psychology and biology. Okay, they understand that making this type of video is going to make a lot of people pay attention. Why? Because human beings pay the most attention to what they fear is true, or it's one of the things they pay the most attention to. So if you're afraid that YouTube is somehow screwing you, and some popular YouTuber makes an ambiguous video that says, maybe YouTube is screwing us, ooh, and then they show you all these statistics and facts about how I'm talking too much about the video, I'm going to give away who it is. I saw that video and I immediately got just frustrated. And I'm like, that's not helping people. That's not helping creators learn what they need to learn to build a YouTube channel, a business, anything. It's teaching them how to be afraid of the boogeyman. YouTube's not trying to screw you. They make money off of you. They would be idiots if they're like, let's just find ways to make it hard for all of it. Like, if they could find a way to help all of you earn $1 million, they'd do it because they'd make more money. Give me a break. Like, they're favoriting, YouTube is favoriting the people with millions of subscribers. Of course they are. I mean, would you go to a doctor who is, like, would you go to an intern to do open heart surgery on you, or would you go to the doctor who's been doing it for 40 years? Give me a break. Like, so for those of you saying real talk, I appreciate it. And all I'm saying is that's all you're going to get from me. I'm not going to get up here and do those gimmicky videos. They get a ton of views because they get a bunch of immature thinking. I'm not going to call them immature people because they may be mature people, but in that moment when they're giving in to that nonsense conspiracy theory crap, you're wasting your time watching that nonsense. And I refuse to make that. I do. If it means I end up with 15,000 subscribers instead of 100,000 because I don't make that kind of stupid content, fine. Then I can go to bed and eventually one day go to the grave if Jesus tarries, knowing that I didn't sit here and give people a bunch of BS just to manipulate money and time out of their watch. Like, that's one of the things that frustrates me so much, not just about YouTube, but I've been working in the media for a long time, and it's the same everywhere. I've worked with news media, and a lot of them are good people, but they have a system that they have to use because it's the way our human psychology and biology works, and people manipulate it. And I hate it. I hate it. I refuse to make that type of crap. So, sorry, I got on my soapbox there. I have a tendency to do that. Let's get into number 3. Go ahead and screenshot. I say all that to say, you know, if you want gimmicky stuff where I'm just going to pat you on the head and tell you it's going to be all right and you're going to win if you just stay positive and, you know, YouTube's out to get you, you got, like, I'm not making, so if that's what you're looking for, you're never going to get it here, is the point of that. Let's see. All right, 3. What did I talk about so far? I'm old and I have children. Well, I'm not that old, but I'm not 19 anymore. We talked about money. Talked about fame. Oh, okay, here we go. My favorite one. In YouTube goals. I'm trying to be careful about the words I choose here. And only being careful because there's some connotations with, I could have written, just as an example, save the world, just kind of cliche, that's why I didn't use it. Or change the world, like those are two cliches. That help the world is what I want to do. So to me, this is where you get the best of all three worlds. Okay, when your goal is to, and world can mean a number of different things to different creators. Okay, this may not be the same for all of us. For some of you, it may be like if you're Gandhi or Mother Teresa, it may literally be the world. But in some cases, it may just be the world that you are influencing. All right, you want to help the people who follow you. All right, you want to save the people that follow you from some, like I like to save people from buffoonery and nonsense fear mongering. Okay, that happens, and I do more of that on my other channel. Like I did a video on my other channel called "The Media is Controlling You," and I purposefully made the title "Conspiracy Theory" so that when I came on the camera and was like, the first thing out of my mouth is, this is not some BS Illuminati conspiracy theory. So if that's what you're looking for, click away. Like that's shocking right off the bat. Like, oh, this dude isn't just doing another one of those videos where he's going to play scary music and show you the thing where the president's Secret Service man looks like an alien. Oh, just enough. You know how much money the people are making off of that BS? So anyway, or change the world in some way. Like when I started Alloy 7 as a gamer at first, it was, I want to change the gaming landscape. There's so much negativity and cynicism that's prevailing from a very small, but very vocal minority. Okay, so all the cynical people and the negative people and the haters and trolls, there's not that many of them. In fact, the bulk of the gaming community are people that aren't leaving comments on YouTube. They're too busy playing games to be sitting here watching us argue about whether The Witcher 3 is better than The Elder Scrolls. Okay? So, I wanted to change that dialogue. Like, it doesn't have to be all negative and cynicism. Electronic Arts is not the Antichrist. Bobby Kotick is also not the Antichrist. He may make decisions that we don't like, or I won't say we, because I'm really kind of indifferent when it comes to a lot of things. I don't need to spend my money. Like, if you make something I like, I'll spend money on it. You make something I need, I'll spend money on it. Like all the nuts and bolts, and if he's hiring slave labor from another country, then probably I'll get the product from somewhere else. But if he just made a game that was released a little bit early because they needed to meet board requirements and they probably shouldn't have done that, I'm not ready to cast the company into the lake of fire along with Satan and his cohorts because of that. When I look at the history of things that they've done well. Now, there's people who will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. I'm not saying I'm right. My point is I wanted to bring a different perspective of, even if I don't like a game that I review, I can give you some of the things to take away from the experience that are positive, that are good, that this game didn't get everything right. I personally hated it, but for someone else who's not me, here's some things that you may actually dig. Instead of crapping on games and then arguing, being a troll and screaming about how all these companies make $1 billion and they don't care about gamers. I mean, it's just like, it's not absolutely true. The truth is usually somewhere in the middle. And so I wanted to change that dialogue, that discourse. All right, same thing with my personal channel, the Bryant Chambers Movement. I wanted to be able to help people advance their careers. I wanted to help people if they, advance their business if they were doing that, but more importantly, advance their lives, like help them understand themselves. Like Sun Tzu says in The Art of War, the man who knows himself and knows his enemy will never be endangered in 1,000 encounters. And so, in this case, the enemy is the problems we're trying to solve in life, not other people. And if I can help people understand themselves and understand the details and the nuances of the problems they're trying to solve, I can then provide solutions, because in a lot of cases I may have lived through something similar that I can share, or I've got knowledge from people thousands of years older than me, hundreds of years older than me, or just flat out smarter than me, that I can infuse into the situation and help them experience their definition of a better, more enriched life. Okay, and that's, to me, this is where you get the benefit of all three, because you get to help people, which is what we should all be doing, not doing fear-mongering videos where we're scaring people into watching our crap because we're afraid that we're being taken advantage of, right? Or, you know, preying on people's need to, you know, I don't have a better word for some of the buffoonery that's popular on YouTube, okay? And I'm not against it. It's just not really adding a lot of value to people's lives outside of a quick laugh, which can be powerful, but in the grand scheme, really not. You know, if I had the choice, were he still living, to watch Peter Drucker videos or PewDiePie videos, there would never, other than the fact that I'm a YouTube coach and I kind of have to understand what's going on, or I should say I'm a coach who, one of the areas where I focus is YouTube, because I'm not just a YouTube coach. I would watch Peter Drucker 100 times out of 100 over what PewDiePie's doing. Even if I wanted to be entertained, I'd probably still watch Peter Drucker, because the value add there is just, it's 100 times out of 100 for me going to be a better thing. And I want to be able to give people something, like you hear people in the comments saying, this is real talk, this is great advice, nobody else is talking about these things. You're right. No one else is talking about these things for free. A lot of other people are talking about these things. Trust me, because I'm in their programs. I'm in YouTube academies just like the one I run. And the stuff they're sharing in there ain't any more cutting edge than a lot of the stuff that I'm sharing with you here. And I'm not bad-mouthing them. I pay them. They help coach me. Okay? It's no more cutting edge than the stuff we do in our paid section, and it's certainly not more cutting edge than a lot of the stuff that we're sharing here. Most of the time. There's a couple things in there, because one of the programs I'm in has, for example, an advertisement expert. Okay, like I have done ads, I understand how to do marketing and advertisements, but I am not an advertising expert who's been doing advertising for 50 years. Okay, so there's nuance there. They bring some things to the table that I obviously don't have, and vice versa. But the point is, this stuff is being talked about, you're just usually having to pay for it. And like I said before, I want to give away more stuff. Like I said, you can get a copy of my ebook completely for free, the YouTube Gamer Survival Guide, but frankly, I should have changed the name to just the YouTuber's Survival Guide, because everything in there applies to any type of YouTuber, regardless of whether you do gaming or not. I just happen to be a gamer, and I had focused on gaming for so many years, so I wanted to serve that audience. But a lot of the stuff is being talked about. You're just having to pay for it. I understand, you know, being a starving artist. I've been there, all right? I've been, like I said last night, I've been the dude when I was much younger who had to call my brother to help me pay my rent, all right, because of just the way life went at the time, and I didn't have access to resources. So I know back in those days I would not have wanted to pay $1,000 for someone to coach me on how to do stuff that was going to help me make more money. I would be willing to pay for it, because I understand I have paid over $1,000 and sometimes more than $100 a month or $70 a month or whatever in different programs I've been in and am still in. I pay for them because I understand the value of having somebody else coach me in the things I don't know. Like I have folks that coach me on how to do Facebook ads because they're better at it than me. Instead of me trying to figure it all out myself for free and taking 5 years to get as good as them, I can give them $100 a month and they will show me exactly what to do, step by step by step by step. And then I'm making more money than the $100 a month that I'm spending. Okay? I say all that to say, again, the recurring theme here is at the end of the day, your goal, your overarching goal should be to add value to the right people at the right time. Add the right value, I should say. Add the right value, or like they say in business school, give the right, produce the right product for the right audience at the right time. And that's really the main takeaway here, because then when you do this, you will be building something that's going to help the world, save the world, change the world. Then you're going to find the fame that you're looking for, going back to number one, because people are going to want to be a part of this situation here. Okay? And then two, you're going to make more money. If I told you right now, tonight, I could show you how to make $1 million in a month. And I'm not saying that, by the way, but let's just, for the sake of the argument, if I said, if you give me $100 right now, I can show you how to turn it into $1 million by the end of the month, you'd be crazy. Like, especially like, I don't mean in a fraudulent way. I mean, like, if I said there's a money back guarantee, if it doesn't work at the end of a month, you get all your money back. If it doesn't work, my system is so dope that you'll get all your money back if you're not a millionaire at the end of this thing. Again, this is a hypothetical situation. I would never sell anything like that because it's impractical, and there's no program you're going to spend $100 on that's going to make you a millionaire in a month. But the point I'm making to you is if that system did exist, you'd be crazy not to give $100 to it. You'd be insane because you have nothing to lose. You're going to give $100 and either you're going to be a millionaire in a month or you're going to get your $100 back. So you've lost nothing but a month. You see what I'm saying? So when you are adding value, giving the right value to the right people at the right time, you're helping the world. Remember, the world is the world that you define. It's not necessarily all of Earth. We're not talking about finding the cure for HIV. Some cases it's just entertaining your target audience or helping your target audience, informing them, educating them, training them. Okay? And then when you do that, you're going to build a certain amount, you're going to build a following. In my case, it's not so much the fame and the limelight as it is just the ability to empower more people. That's what I define as fame. And at the end of that, you're going to get more money. Why? Because you've given more value away to other people. Does that all make sense to everybody? Type in the comment section, makes sense, if that makes sense to you. All right? And then while you're typing, let me go ahead and invite you to go ahead, get your questions in the comment section after you type makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, say it doesn't make sense and tell me which part didn't make sense and I'll flesh it out. But I imagine it did make sense. Belgian Dan says, so E.T. isn't taking over the world through film. Going back to the conspiracy theory. Super Fat Turkey's got to leave. Cheers, my friend. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bad Karma says, I love your stuff, bro. Thank you. The guide is really good. Excellent. I'm glad it's serving you well. Good. Makes sense, makes sense, makes sense, makes sense, and makes sense. Very excited. So go ahead, get your questions ready for me, and I'm going to tell you about a way, as I've been down here to get my marker. My legs are extremely sore because I had leg day on Friday, and I hadn't had a leg day like that in the gym in probably a month. Like I had kind of farted around on some of my workouts, and I went hard, like just insane, hundreds of pounds, almost I think 1,000 pounds on one of the workouts I was doing, and my legs just hurt. So it's hard, like it's hard for me to move around because my legs. And then I went running yesterday, yesterday with a 30-pound bag on my back, and now my lower back, like everything's just sore because I hadn't done any of that in a month. Like I had been working out because I don't go more than a couple of days without a workout. In fact, I work to work out 6 days a week. It doesn't always work out that way because I have family and stuff I have to do, but usually it's 6 days a week I'm working out. But usually no less than 4 days a week. And this was one of my, for the past 3 weeks, I've been hardcore 4 to 6 days a week, but this was the first week where I did my legs. And sometimes it just works out where my leg day is right before my heavy run day, and it just sucks because I hadn't done a heavy ruck run in over a month. So let's talk about adding value. That's what we've been talking about all night, right? So I showed you the link in the description. I'm going to go ahead and write it up here as well. If I could spell tonight, that would probably be helpful. So if you go to alloy7.tv/ebook, and so let me explain what happens there because we've had some folks get a little confused because of the way it works. When you go here, you're going to see a sign-up form that just asks for your email. And I don't spam. Okay, what I send out I believe is valuable. I don't send out stuff that I wouldn't want to read myself. So I'm not going to spam you with a bunch of, hey, game, you can get a Game Shark for $8 at Walmart. Like, I'm not doing any of that crap, okay? Like, I'm sending out things that I think are valuable. So when you go here, there's a form to join the mailing list. What happens is I send out a series of emails that tell my story, that welcome you to the program. But then the second email that I send has the ebook, right? Because I want you to have a little bit of the backstory before you jump into the ebook, so that you have that context and the book starts to make more sense about why you need to do. Like if I just gave you the book and threw you out there to the streets and said, go read it, it's great. But getting the email that I sent out first before the book, and it's really 2 emails, it gives you some backstory to understand why what's in the book is so important. Okay, so I highly encourage, I know you're busy, I know life throws a lot of advertisements and things at you. I'm not sending out ads, I'm sending out crap. Like even the stuff that I send you, like if there's a product involved, it's something that I have either bought myself and I know for a fact that it is freaking amazing, or it's one of my products that I think is going to be very helpful for you, okay? But when you join the mailing list, so you'll get an email from me tonight, and it'll immediately, and then tomorrow around this time, if you joined right now, tomorrow around this time, you'll get another email that fleshes out my story, tells you how I failed on YouTube and why. Because I want you to understand, like if I just got up here and told you about all my successes and how awesome I am, that narrative gets old. People want to hear the reality. And the reality is nobody who's ever went through life without losing something, or without giving up something great to get to the winning. So I tell you about my losses. I tell you about the stupid stuff I did and the mistakes that I made because I had over-optimism. These things I put on the board, I'm not criticizing you guys. I'm telling you about it because I did it. I screwed it up. And I know those things. So you could totally avoid those things. So when you get the book, it's like, oh, this is what he was talking about. This is how he, quote unquote, lost 90,000 subscribers. That's the title of the second email that I sent. And then at the end of the email, you get a link and you click it and the book downloads. It's a PDF or whatever the book reader format is. It's just an ebook. And I kept it succinct. I won't say it's short because it's, I think, 80 pages or so, or 70 some. But it's very succinct. Like I've read almost every YouTube book Amazon has about growing an audience, SEO, all these different things. I've read the SEO Bible. Okay, I have it. I've read it. I've studied it. I've built lessons on it myself, some of which are in the YouTube Ninja Academy, which we'll talk about here in a second. And so I tell that part of my story. Like, here's all the stuff that I screwed up, and here's how you don't have to. All right? So that's what happens. And then there's, I think, 2 more emails that come after that share but the Ninja Academy with you, which we'll talk about here in a second. But if you... No, because the deals will be available in the emails as well. But the other thing here in terms of adding value, which is my whole focus, is I send out emails periodically. I typically don't send more than a handful a week. I try, like there's some marketers that'll teach you need to send an email every day to keep your audience engaged. But here's how I do it. I don't make something if I ain't got something. I don't send something if I don't have something to say. It's as simple as that. I just won't. Because that's a disservice to you. Like if I'm just sending email just to be sending email to you, that's not, I'm not that guy. So I will send you emails when I actually have something to say to you. Something that I need to share with you that I think is valuable, which will usually center around YouTube. Sometimes I will send out, hey, I'm going to be giving away, like I have one more code for Star Ocean 5 that I need to give out. That Square Enix was very gracious to hook me with several copies of it that I could give away to my audience. I've given away all but one, so I still need to do that as well. Sometimes I'll just send a code in the email and whoever gets it first gets it. So it behooves you to actually read my emails. And that was the point I was coming to, is actually read it. Don't skim through it, because what I'm sharing with you is going to be very helpful. You can get to your next episode of Diamond Minecart. It'll be there. But you want to definitely make time for the things that are actually going to help you succeed, not just the things that are entertaining you. Okay? Then the other place you can go, same prefix there. Oh, wrong marker. Here I go again, yo. So you can either go to alloy7.tv/ebook or alloy7.tv/ninja Academy. Right? And when you go through that progression, it's going to walk you through the green belt program. Right? It's going to basically, when you go here, you're going to see a form. And by the way, when you go to the ebook, clicking on the ebook form and filling it out will take you through this progression already. So if you don't have the ebook, just go get the ebook. And if you're interested in the Academy stuff, the website will take you through everything that I have to offer. And if you don't want it, just click no. Like there's a join here button. If you don't want that, you just click no. I don't want this, and then it'll take you to the next thing. Say, okay, if you don't want that, would you like this instead? Then you can click yes. I would very much prefer this because it's a higher end product. Okay, etc. etc. So when you go through either one of these, you're going to get the green belt. Then that's going to ask you if you're interested. You're going to get the blue belt. And here's the cool part. I talked about this last night, which I think this is hilarious. You get the benefit from me not having everything built yet. And there's the black belt, which we're still building. That's not done yet. And from the blue belt, so basically when you go through the progression, it's going to ask you if you want to get into the green belt. And then if you say yes or no, it'll then ask you, hey, would you also like to upgrade to the blue belt? Right? And then you can say yes or no. And then it won't ask you about the black belt, but it will ask you, do you want to become a VIP? Okay, and we'll talk about that in a second. And so with the green belt, just so you guys can understand how it works, that's 47 bucks. As of right now today, I'm not planning on ever raising that price. I might in the future because I think it's fair. I think what's in there, like I've been through other people's trainings that they charge similar prices for. My prices are lower literally across the board than pretty much every program I've been in. And the cutting edge stuff that I'm sharing with you for free is not even in those programs. Not disparaging the programs. They're still great stuff, but I've been through them. I've read the books on Amazon, and they're good. Like I'm not going to sit here and criticize any of them. They're good. I've read Daryl Eve's book. I think, for example, Tim Schmor's book is amazing. I'd like if I could make that a mandatory part of my program, I would, because Tim's book is dope. Okay? So I'm not here to badmouth anybody. All right, blue belt is typically $197. However, as you go through the website here, you're going to see that this is not happening, and you can actually get access to it for $97. So basically, to become a blue belt ninja, you'll pay, it's about $145, because you'll join as a green belt. It'll ask you if you want to upgrade to a blue belt, and if you do, you won't pay the $197. You'll pay $100 less, which typically what would happen is when you join green belt, I would then take 47 bucks off of this and you'd pay 150. But I'm taking off an entire 100. So total, if you became a blue belt, you'd be spending 144. Okay? Then here's the hilarious part. It's going to ask you, we're not to the hilarious part yet. It's then going to ask you if you want to be in the VIP program. Okay? Which is $24.95 per month. Now that's a monthly fee. Be aware of that. It says it all on the website. I keep it very clear so you guys know what's up. This is so that you can get access to the live calls. Not this. Like this is me talking and you just listening. Once a month with our VIPs in the program, I do a live call where we can talk to one another. You can ask questions and I can respond. You're not typing them here. You are basically, you're not typing the questions. We are talking to one another like we're on the phone. Okay, so that's a whole separate thing that we're doing here. But the hilarious part is that if you do this, just these two tonight, you're going to get into this for this much money. Because I have not built the product yet. And it'll be very soon when I do, and you can rest assured it's going to be a lot more than $197. In fact, I've been telling people for months we're going to raise the price of the blue belt. Again, just because it's fair. I've kept the price extremely low because I wanted it to be low so that people could get into it. But when I look at what other people are charging, everywhere from community colleges to other marketers and other programs that I'm even paying to be in, they're charging way more than what I'm charging to get, and in some cases I'm giving way more information about how to actually build virality and what the psychology and the biology is behind virality, and understanding how things go viral, understanding why certain things are contagious. And it's not my knowledge. I'm not smart enough to come up with all that. I'm sharing with you the cutting edge people. I'm sharing with you the cutting edge information and knowledge that's coming from the people in industry who've mastered this. All right. So anyway, I never like to go into too much of a spiel about this. Hopefully you guys have left me some good questions here. So basically, if you do this, whether you do the VIP or not, if you do this today, you're going to be in the black belt program, so that when I launch the black belt program and I do start charging money for it, you're already in there and you got in it for free. And that will, like I've told everyone that's ever joined one of my programs, whether you're one of the people in the very beginning that I let in for free, because I had a handful of people who have been supporting me for a while, and they didn't have the money, but they had the work ethic. And what I value more than your money is your tenacity and your mental toughness. And I had some people in my circle who I knew would benefit from some of the knowledge I have, and I was like, I'm not going to charge them a penny, because one, I know they don't have it, and two, it would be my pleasure and my honor to work with them, because I know they'll put in the work. More so than a lot of the people that I coach on the free side, like people that send me questions. A lot of times I've told you guys, I'm not shy about admitting that a lot of the questions I get aren't great questions. It's people being lazy and not Googling what they could have easily Googled, instead of wasting your time, because when they ask me those questions, they're taking me away from you all. Okay, not everybody. Sometimes I do get great questions, but 6 times out of 10 I get questions that people could have Googled. Or at least they could have Googled the first part of the question and asked a better question for me to answer. All right, so anyway, that's what's going on there. But like I said, whether you got in for free, there's a couple people who got into the program very early, and it was only $5 a month, and they got everything and the VIP program, because all that stuff was still being built. If you're in black belt, even when I build the product and I start adding more content to it, and we charge a fee for it, you're already in it. There's not gonna be a charge after the fact. And by the way, all of this stuff has a a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you get in it, and I've had people do this back when because my book typically sells for $20. I had a person say, hey man, I'm sure your book is awesome, but I can't read it because I don't speak English. Refund. No question. I'm not gonna ask, was that person telling the truth? I have no idea, but I'm not gonna waste my time asking. If the book's not serving the purpose within 30 days, boom, refund. Same thing goes here. Like if you get in it, I think we've had one person request a refund from the VIP, and it wasn't because the content wasn't great. It was because they just couldn't keep the schedule. They're like, I'm not really going to be able to take advantage of the VIP program. Would you mind refunding my money? I refunded it immediately. Okay, so within 30 days, if you're in here and you're consuming the content, you're like, this just isn't working for me, or I just decided I don't want to be on YouTube anymore, and I just spent all this money for something I'm never going to use, all you got to do is shoot me an email. And my email's all over the place, believe me. If you need to get a hold of me, you can. I'm not hiding. All right? After 30 days, if it's not working, let me know. Boom. And then hopefully, I don't think we've had anybody take advantage of that, where they join for a day and then try to, because you can totally use capture software to get all the videos. I hope nobody's doing that, but it's a risk you take when you're online. And for the people who are doing it the right way, I'm not going to short them because of a few dishonest people. If people are taking advantage of the system, I tend to have a little bit more optimism, and I think human beings are generally good people, and they want to do the right thing, because I want to do the right thing by you, by giving you a money-back guarantee that's going to help. Like, we've had people get in and just their financial situation changes. They're like, I just can't do this anymore. Can you help a brother or a sister out? And I'm like, yep, no sweat. No questions asked. Okay, so that's that. What are the questions that we have here? All right. Yeah, I love what Wells Knight said here, and welcome back, Wells Knight. Thanks for joining us, brother. Subscribers don't matter, viewers do. That's so important, and so many people miss that. Going back, and that's a great comment to add to what I said in bullet number 1 in the video, where people, they get this, I need to have 1 million subscribers. Why? What, you just want a number to show up on your screen that gives you some type of social clout? What if you got 1 million people to subscribe to you and none of them watch your videos ever? How is that helping you? Like, granted, if you had 1 million people, arguably enough of them are going to watch to help you be semi-successful. But, guys, it's about creating value for other human beings. It's not about chasing numbers. You start chasing the numbers, you're going to become an opportunist, and eventually that's going to get you, it's going to put you in a situation you don't want to be in. That's how, you know, I shared the positive side of companies like Activision and EA and Ubisoft, but that's frankly how they get into the hot water they got into. On the negative side is they got focused on the numbers. And when the numbers and the board get more focused on how can we continue to milk a franchise to death to the point where it has not, it is gradually over time sold less and less and less and less. Same thing goes with Final Fantasy and Square Enix. We've been milking this thing to death. Final Fantasy has never sold more copies than Final Fantasy VII ever. It's been a matter of fact, no other RPG has outsold Final Fantasy VII. It's been a steady decline since then, right? Why? Because when you have a brand that has that much brand recognition, you have, a business has to take advantage, well, they don't have to, but a business takes advantage of that so that they can continue to make more money. But part of that, it's not always wrong, but it can be lazy and it can lull you to sleep as a business, and then you can wake up 10 years later, it's like, crap, we need to start publishing other games. Let's get Just Cause, let's get Deus Ex, let's get all these other things involved, because now the cash cow stopped, you know, dropping milk, yo. All right, so it's the same thing with this chasing of subscribers. Like, you know, I made a video that nobody watched, but I wished everybody had, called "Stop Worshiping Your Subscriber Box." You're looking at it every day, hoping it's going to go up. Cut it out. Use all of that energy to focus on making valuable content the way that Wells Knight does, and then look at how many. Like, look at the example I gave on the board where I said the more value you add, the more you get in terms of viewership, subscribers, money, all these things that you're looking for. They become results instead of goals. They become the results of doing good work for other people. Okay? And Wells is 100% right. You've got to get viewers, and viewers means someone has paid to watch your video. And let me explain what that means, because paid is not just money. YouTube is not free. Here's why. No, you don't spend money to watch YouTube unless you have YouTube Red, but you spend time. And that's time you could literally be doing anything else. So if I want someone to give me 20 minutes of their life to watch me play a video game, I better make sure as hell that there's something in that video that makes them want to watch it. It doesn't mean it has to be the best edited, the best sound, doesn't mean I have to have Markiplier's voice. That's not what I'm talking about, but there has to be something in there that adds value to the viewer. You focus on getting that right, you won't have to worry about subscribers. Okay? And depending on the niche and the direction you take, like I said earlier, I would rather have 15,000 subs and keep it real with you guys than make a lot of this fear-mongering tips that you see with these bigger channels that do. Like I said, I'm not criticizing them. I'm not going to tear them down. That's why I'm not going to name any names. Because I'm not in the business of criticizing the way another man or another woman feeds their kids. Okay? I'm not going to do that. But it's going to cost me subscribers to make content the way I make it. How do I know that? Because I understand human psychology and biology. I've been coaching on it for 20 years. I understand it. So I understand that the direction I'm going, just like when I was in music and I met with a very prominent record deal individual who I'm not going to name because I don't like name dropping, and I went to them for some advice. Was like, here's what I'm doing in music. I'm doing the same thing in YouTube space. And they sat me down, was like, look, this is going to be a long road. You're never going to be as popular as these other artists because the way you're going is too against the grain. But you can still be successful depending on how you define success. But you can't be Jay-Z or Metallica because you're not going to have that type of appeal. It's the same thing because the way I'm wired, I know it's going to cost me on YouTube to make 2-hour-long discussions versus 5-minute cutesy little SEO videos about here's 3 tips you, and I have some of those videos. I'm not against them. But it's not what I want to do. Is it going to cost me? Yeah. But this is what I consider to be the right thing for me. If it costs me, it's the way it goes. But please listen to what Wells is saying there with this chasing of the numbers. Don't chase adding value to people's lives. All right. And pay attention to what Wells just wrote here with the value statement. He gave you guys an excellent template for it. If you like blank, then you might like my videos. I do daily blank with a focus on blank. Totally. So if you, I don't remember how many videos ago it was where I showed you guys, I help blank do blank. Now that's an easy one-sentence way to talk about your value. Like if you look at my other gaming channel, and my other gaming channel right now is just an experiment. I may not keep it going because I understand how gaming works on YouTube. And as the more I evaluated it and studied it, I started to realize, okay, I know what the typical audience is looking for, but I have a bet that's saying I think there's people who want more intellectually focused discourse. Now, it's not going to be 40 million people because no, that's not how humanity works. Let alone, like, how many people watch the History Channel versus watch Spike TV? Okay, like I had a dude ask me that. He's like, dude, how come you don't have more subscribers on your channel? I said, it's really simple. Why do more people eat at McDonald's than there are people who eat organic, healthy vegetables? Because it tastes better. You know, it's poison and it's killing you. It tastes better. I don't make stuff that tastes as good. It's that simple. Like, it's not because the people like, your stuff's so good. It's not so good. And that's going back to the over-optimism I was talking about that you guys need to eradicate. My content is not that good because good is in the eye of the beholder. Now, you may find my content valuable and good, but to the average viewer, nope. It's not as good as a PewDiePie or whatever name you want. I use him a lot. I probably should find other examples. But he's easy to pick on. But the point is, it's not as good. And when you accept that, then you can start to add value to the people who you are wired to add value to. All right? Yes, Samurai says he's going to repost. You can absolutely repost your question. If I go on one of my soapboxes and I miss a question, just repost it. It's not spam. None of my moderators are going to come yell at you. It's totally cool. All right, Double Post says, it's easy to fall into that trap too. That's why I got BC to keep me in check. So, Samurai Life says, I have a question about engagement. I'm having trouble with getting engagement and feedback from subscribers and was wondering if that is something I should worry about as a newer channel. So, I don't think you should worry about anything. I think what you should do is, I don't know how you're defining engagement personally for you or what numbers you're looking for, but are you making content that's engaging? That's where I would start. Is anything that you're making particularly engaging? And so let me flesh that out for you. I'll give you some of the stuff we talk about in the books we review in the private area. I'll give you kind of a behind the scenes thing here. You know, one of the things that makes the news and some of these other channels that I was just fussing about so compelling is that take Jim Sterling, for example. Let's pick on Jim for a minute. One of the reasons why Jim is so well engaged is because, and I think he does it on purpose, and I think he's smart to do it on purpose. This isn't a criticism. Jim makes very polarizing content. Like, you either agree with him or you hate. Like, he wrote an article back for Destructoid years ago about Xenoblade Chronicles. And it was an amazing article. It was before I had played Xenoblade Chronicles. In fact, it was the reason why I went out on Black Friday a year later and got a copy of Xenoblade Chronicles for $30 because it was selling for $100 and GameStop put them on sale. I stood in a line at midnight to get that game because of Jim Sterling. And I don't stand in lines, so that you need to understand how powerful that is. Anyway, he wrote an article about the reason why Xenoblade Chronicles had to look like crap. It was because in the modern world of gaming, visual fidelity takes up so much of a budget that if you made Xenoblade Chronicles look like Final Fantasy 15, the game would have never happened. It would have cost too much to make. They never could have recouped their investment. So that's very polarizing. Like, he basically just crapped on the industry in a sense, kind of in a backdoor way, that all you big publishers who are making these games that have awesome visual fidelity are making games that lack substance, is what he, in my opinion, was saying without saying. That's very polarizing to a fan of visual and audio fidelity in games that have insanely great graphics. He's saying basically this game with horrible graphics crushes, and I'm totally paraphrasing and maybe even putting words in his mouth. It's just the way I interpreted it. But it's going back to why that article was so engaging, because it was polarizing. He said basically Xenoblade Chronicles had to look like crap, and it's your fault because you keep supporting all of these big industry games that look great, but really are little more than a recursive loop of operant conditioning, you know, a Skinner box basically, of risk and reward where you shoot somebody and points show up on the screen and you get a little rush of dopamine in your brain and you're addicted to playing these games that have no substance. Whereas you look at a game like Xenoblade Chronicles and it has 130 hours of content, and that's not even completing everything. And it's not just filler content. A lot of it feeds into the story and fleshing out the characters. And he's like, but it had to look like crap because there's no way a game like this could have looked like the new Call of Duty. The reason why he gets a lot of engagement is because he just set two groups of people against each other. Okay? Because there's going to be people like me who agree with his sentiment that I would rather go back in time to the Super Nintendo era in terms of visual fidelity and get games that have more substance than have to play, I don't know, I can't think of a game off the top of my head. What was that shooter on PlayStation 4 that sucked but apparently looked amazing? It was one of the early launch titles, but it was garbage. Or like the new Duke Nukem when it came out was garbage. It looked great. It was a crap game. You know, I would take a Xenoblade Chronicles, even though I had my issues with Xenoblade Chronicles. I reviewed it and I Let's Played it, and I was frustrated with it by the end. But I respected it for what it was, and I thought it was a fantastic game, even though I personally didn't like it as much as I wanted to. But I would rather play a game that looked like that 100 times out of 100 and get the substance that a Xenoblade Chronicles had than play something that looks like the sleekest Call of Duty with very limited substance. But there's people who are going to disagree with that. And it's going to cause not conflict, but healthy debate. And even though it also creates conflict because humans struggle with things like cognitive dissonance, and they struggle with insecurity, and they can't abide someone having an opinion that's different from them. So if you're not getting the engagement you want, you have to look at your videos and figure out, is your video as engaging as it could be? What are you tapping into that's in... Remember, everything you do has to be done from the perspective of your viewer. One of the things Wells Knight, I'm going to use him as an example, I use him a lot, does so extremely well. He has a series called 15-Minute Builds. You know who that's for? People like me who are too lazy to figure out how to become as good at Minecraft as he is. He's just going to show me the shortcut to building this awesome thing. Like he built Santa's sleigh last year or the year before. It was amazing. I watched that video. I was like, this is extremely valuable to not just lazy people like me, but people who just want to appreciate the attention to detail that Wells uses to make those videos. You know, what they don't know is the amount of hours that go into him making that 15-minute show. That video has great value add for the viewer. It's engaging. Can you say the same thing about your video? So instead of looking at your numbers and wishing and wondering why, look at your content and then determine. One of the easiest ways is, would you watch your own stuff and comment on it? And if you wouldn't, you might have your answer. Yep. Wells says, honestly, the first 6 months of your channel, at the very least, are spent trying to figure out who you are as a content creator and an entertainer. Absolutely. Trying to figure out how to edit, how to SEO, how to have your mic set up. Yep, and yep. So I want to address something that Wells has said here. I want to add some context to it. So he says, unless you get featured in Kotaku or something, the vast majority of your viewers will come through SEO. So for those of you that don't understand SEO or don't understand it as well as Wells Knight does, there's also some context that needs to be added to that statement. So SEO in and of itself is a wonderful tool, but it's not the whole of the story. So for example, I had a video that was featured in Kotaku, and frankly, it didn't really do all that well. SEO otherwise. So what I want to add there is that even if you get your SEO right, now Wells would argue, and he'd be right, that what I'm about to say is a part of the whole SEO process. But the reason why it needs to be said is because most of you may not see it that way, and I need to add it. So if you don't have the value add in the video, like there are videos that I can do SEO in a very excellent way in terms of the mechanics and the tactics of SEO. And I can get things to rank very well in search, okay? But at the end of the day, if the video that people are finding doesn't have what we've been talking about here tonight, and Wells knows this, so I'm not saying it to him, I'm saying it to the rest of you that may see him say that and then go research SEO and again, only focus on the tactics, which is what we talked about last night. Do not go into that without understanding the bigger picture, which is you need to have a strategy, an end game, and you need to understand how what you're creating adds value outside of the individual mechanics of SEO. Okay, but he's absolutely right. Especially in the early stages of your channel, you're gonna have to take advantage of how the YouTube algorithm works, how the Google algorithm works, and play that thing to your advantage. You go out there, you try to make, like next week, try to make a review for Dragon Quest Builders and see how nobody watches it. No matter how great you're, and I'll give you an example of how that worked for me. I reviewed The Last of Us. It's the best review I've ever done. Nobody watched it. I made the review just because I wanted to. I didn't even care because I thought the game was so great, and I had written what I thought was a really good review. The viewership didn't really matter to me, but what Wells Knight is talking about is absolutely true. You know, the principles of SEO, if viewership and subscribership had been the overarching goal of making that video, I probably would not have made it. But I made it because I thought it was an important piece of work for me to make. But his points about SEO, especially when you're a much smaller channel, the Call of Duty Advanced Warfare review I did is also an excellent review. But you got to remember, the Call of Duty is the most important thing in gaming outside of Minecraft. It's one of the most highly searched things in Google, period. So me trying to sneak my Call of Duty video in there amidst the 50 billion other videos, it's not really going to help me. So you have to take advantage of the tool, of the SEO tool to help you, especially when your channel is smaller. Yes, and Wells brings up another very important point, which is you need to feel free to experiment. In fact, I not only advocate in experimenting, I instruct people to experiment with different types of content. One, going back to something Wells Knight said, which is one, you're still figuring you out. You got to know what works for you, and sometimes you're not going to know. Like, you're going to map out a strategy like I showed you to, but you're not going to know that the strategy is right on until you actually begin to implement and then pivot and make adjustments based on the feedback you get both from yourself and from your audience. So the content that I would make today would be quite a bit different from the content I would have been making 3 years ago. Okay, for example, I don't really do reviews anymore because the reason I made reviews from a selfish perspective doesn't work on the internet at all. It's just what I want to get out of making a review doesn't exist on the internet, and it never has. Even when I was writing reviews, it was the same. Like, I should have known because I wrote reviews for 8 years before I ever started doing videos, and I should have known. I should have known better, but I'm stubborn. Sometimes I have to try things a bunch of times and experiment and get the results. Let's see. So yeah, search engine optimization, or SEO, in its simplest terms, is how you convince Google, and we're just going to use Google and YouTube because I can teach you about Bing and Yahoo. Like, I can teach you all the nuances and specific nitpicky crap about how the different search engines work, but what you're worried about here tonight is just YouTube and Google. Search engine optimization is how you convince, in this case, the YouTube search algorithm, that what you're creating is both relevant and important. Okay, and Google and YouTube are quite a bit different. They use a lot of the same principles. First of all, Google's algorithm is way more advanced than YouTube's. It updates and changes a lot more frequently than YouTube's does. And the signals that YouTube uses, even though they are oftentimes the same as what Google uses, they rank it differently. Okay, the main thing that ranks with Google, that makes something show up first in Google search, i.e. links, or just like if you wrote a white paper as a scientist, if a million other scientists pointed to it as the authority, your work would be relevant and important. That's the system that Google basically implemented, 20 years ago when they were first getting started, to build their algorithms. YouTube runs off similar principles, but the signals they use are quite a bit different. While links are very powerful, they don't carry the same weight in YouTube search quite as much as your watch time. And your cumulative watch time session, which are the two things that you're going to want to affect the most. And if you're creating content that can't get viewership, you are creating content that can't get watch time, which means you're creating content that cannot perform well in search. And it's really as simple as that. So when you're first getting started, you've got to be able to convince YouTube that your content is both relevant and important. And if your first video is a Call of Duty Zombies video where you're just running around being a clown, chances are you're not going to convince anybody that yours is more important than the 50 billion other people who are doing it. All right? Yeah, and Wells's article there is very, very good. I highly recommend you give that a look. It's very good. A lot of the principles that I teach are absolutely in that article. Definitely want to bookmark it and read it, go back to it. Because, like I said, to become great, you have to regularly rehearse the fundamentals. Like Wells Knight and I are both military guys, and one of the things you may find interesting about the military is we rehearse the same things over and 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 over again. And the reason why is because it's very simple. In a combat situation, your biology is going to take over. When you get shot at, understand that your logical brain switches off. Okay, it goes bye-bye. Now it's your emotional brain that's taken over. And so the reason why the Army rehearses the fundamentals a billion times is so that when you get into combat and emotion takes over, because make no mistake, logic is no longer governing your actions when an RPG blows up 10 feet from you like I've seen it happen in my own life. Emotion takes over. But what will help you override your emotions' desire to flee the situation is the training and the conditioning that's been burnt into your mind. Okay? And so you rehearse it so that logic is out the window, but what you were practiced at doing, like for example, picking up the same sight picture every time you pick up your rifle to acquire a target and fire, you've done it a million times so that when it gets crazy, and by the way, in that environment, your heart rate is going up and it's harder to control your nervous system. It's harder to control your hands and your motion and your breathing. But when you've practiced it a million times, your practice and your training kicks in and overrides that kind of scared puppy in your brain. All right, so the same principle with YouTube. I know that's an extreme example, but you need to rehearse the fundamentals. This book that I always point to, the SEO Bible, I go back to it regularly because the brain forgets. It gets, like Sherlock Holmes says, the brain is like an attic, but you have to regularly clean out. It gets filled up. You regularly have to, Sherlock Holmes said it, Jesus even said it, that you have to renew your mind daily. Everyone agrees with that. Like short briefings in suicide prevention. Or sexual harassment. That's another freaking Army training that just needs to go jump off a cliff. Constant rehearsal. Yep. All right. What other questions do we have? Because I'm pretty much done rambling. I got some more Final Fantasy II to play, which I'm having a ball with, by the way, going back and reliving my childhood. All right, speak now or forever hold your peace, friends. Get your last minute questions in before I roll out. Weekend safety briefings and sexual harassment. Yeah, I used to have to be the one giving the safety briefing, so my apologies. Although mine were usually pretty colorful when I used to have to give them to the men. Mine were quite a bit different than one you may hear from other leaders. Captain Sparks says, have a good night, B. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming, man. It's my pleasure to serve you guys. It really is. I hope you guys know I get a lot of joy out of doing this, because trust me, if I didn't enjoy this, I wouldn't be doing it. You know, I say it pretty often. What I'm able to take out of Alloy 7 in terms of what I get out of it, whether it's, you know, the joy of helping people or the money that I make, especially if you're talking about the money, it pales in comparison to the other things that I do in my life. So I do this because I enjoy being able to help people who are passionate about providing the world with something of value, whether it's entertainment, it's education, whatever it is that you do, whether it's art. And I think all of those things are important facets of our world. And if I can just help folks do that better, then that's really at the heart of what I do here. And it's at the heart of everything that I create, even on my personal coaching, which is where I focus a lot of my life, are, you know, the friends, the clients, the people that I work with in real life. My goal is always the same. It's, you have a definition of what a better life is, or a better, you know, experience is. And all I want to do is just be the coach that helps you get to it. You know, and not always just a coach. Sometimes I'm an advocate. Sometimes I'm just a listener. You know, so it's why I do what I do. So I want you guys to know I get a lot of pleasure out of, like, I did, coming here on a Sunday is not work for me. You know, I'll get up with my kids in the morning and take them to school and hang out, and I'll do some work here in my office, but I get a lot of joy out of doing this. This isn't work. Like, when you find something, Wells and I talk about this pretty often, when you find something that makes your heart come alive, and I hope that all you do, I didn't write that on the board tonight, but I hope whatever it is you're planning to create is something that makes your heart come alive, that you're not approaching YouTube as an opportunist who thinks this is an easy way to get out of going to college, because it's not easy. Please believe me that nobody that's making any legitimate money on YouTube is doing it because it was an easy road. Anyone that's making real money on this platform is doing so because they have a passion, a strong passion for what they do, because this system is not built to make you rich. It's not. And the folks that are able to do it are folks that have wrangled this system by the horns and have worked their fingers to the bone to make it happen. So please pick something that doesn't feel like work, that doesn't feel like you have to force yourself through it. And some of that will come from experience. You're not going to know right away. There's things that I did on Alloy 7 that if I could start, or if I hit the reset button today, I would never do again. But that's part of the process of me, you know, kind of transitioning from my art that I used to do as a musician into an entertainer, into kind of an edutainer. So it's the metamorphosis that we all go through. You know, when I came to Alloy 7, I was still very much in entertainment mode, but I was always someone who wanted to inspire through entertainment. You know, it just took me a bunch of years to realize that entertainment's not always the best place to inspire people. Not necessarily a bad thing, but the way I want to inspire lives just doesn't necessarily work with straight up entertainment, because what people are looking for in both aspects are very different. You know, so yeah, Wells, excellent point. And I love that he posted this, being very transparent. He says, took him almost 2 years of 60 plus hours a week to get past minimum wage. Think about that. And there's no other YouTuber that doesn't have that story. PewDiePie broke down and had to get a job because YouTube wasn't paying the bills at one point. All right, so everyone that's successful went through that stage. You know, some of us, you know, I come from more the business side of the house, so I never came here with the idea that I would draw money from YouTube. So what I earn in AdSense is really just icing on the cake. In fact, a lot of my videos, I don't even monetize them, because what I'm able to make through valuable programs like this destroy anything that I would bet money that even PewDiePie made more on his book sales than he did in his AdSense. Even though his AdSense revenue was in the millions, I'd be willing to bet money that his book sales eclipse that. I could be wrong. Maybe nobody bought his book, but I'd be surprised if I was. He says, I enjoy what I do and I would not enjoy flipping burgers. Well said, brother. Yes, Well says, best advice, never stop learning, read, research, and digest every tidbit of it. Yes, I can't. We can end the show on that. Because that's why I'm here. That's right. Wells could have just taught the class tonight. I could have just sat here. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. I literally, you guys need to be paying attention to what he's saying. So Bad Karma says, I like making videos. I love my content. But so you have to find the balance. Like, you have to make something you love, but you can't be the only one that loves it. And that's just simple. It's not even economics. Like, that's just humanity. Like, I can't expect somebody to watch me sit in the bathroom filming myself going to the bath. Like, I may love making videos of me taking showers. Nobody wants to watch that. I mean, arguably there may be some women that want to watch that, or dudes. It's 2016, but by and large, there's not going to be a huge audience of people that want to watch me take showers, I imagine. Even if I love it. So that's probably a horrible example. I should have just used my Shrek 2 example that I use all the time. But anyway, friends, Romans, countrymen, so it's been my pleasure to serve all of you tonight. Thank you. If you have questions about the ebook or the programs we offer, I don't like to spend a lot of time talking about that. I do talk about it because I believe in it, and I think it will add great value to what you're doing. And one of the things I focus on is helping you accelerate past how long it took a lot of us to do what we do. It's basically giving you a roadmap that says, look, just avoid these things and do these things. And you'll, like, if you look at all my other channels and their growth trajectories versus what I started with on Alloy 7, as I was learning the YouTube space versus what I came from industry with understanding Google and things of that nature from the web space, there were some, hurdles I had to get over with the learning curve that with my other channels, I'm able to bypass a lot of that because I have the roadmap already. And that's really what this is all about. So get at me if you want to get into that. Definitely get the free ebook if you don't have it already. It's usually $20, but I'm giving it away for free. I don't know if I ever plan to charge for it again, unless you just want to pay for it. I guess you could do that. But anyway, it's been a pleasure to serve all of you. Thank you so much for your questions and your comments. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so Restoring Heroes Project says, I'm new to this, still trying to find my voice. Any advice? Hey, have a good night, Wells. Thank you so much, bro. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for helping out. So, to the Restoring Heroes, I use a quote from Sun Tzu a lot that says, the general that knows himself and knows his enemy will never be endangered in 1,000 battles. So, you really have to do some soul searching, and I don't mean go into a room and just meditate. You need to read. So, reading other people's work will give you inspiration, especially reading biographies and autobiographies. But one of the books I teach on in a lot of my coaching, and I use this in the YouTube coaching as well, is a book called Please Understand Me. Start with understanding your own psychology and your own makeup. This isn't the most perfect book on the planet, but it's a good start. You can take the Myers-Briggs test, humanmetrics.com or 16personalities.com. You can take the Hexacode test, that's HEXACO. Take that test. Take the DISC or the DISC test. Start to understand how you tick. Because when you know yourself, like Sun Tzu said, and you know your enemy, in this case, the enemy isn't a person, it's the problems you're trying to solve. When you know those things intimately, you'll know how to act. So the example I always give when it comes to finding my voice is I could never be Markiplier and PewDiePie. That life is never going to work for me because that type of content, I could not find, and it's not a criticism, it's just me knowing me. I could not find that type of content more boring. Because there's nothing in it that specifically inspires me, or I'm the type of personality type that has to have my intellect stimulated. So things that are just funny for the sake of, like, I always use the show Jackass as an example. That show is completely asinine and boring to me because there's no intellect in it. It's just a bunch of guys being idiots. There's nothing wrong with that. If people enjoy that, cool. I don't. So I know that about myself. So I can't go around shoving controllers up my behind and making those like. It's not that I don't infuse humor and comedy into what I do, but it's just comedy and humor and those types of entertainment. What is entertaining to me is different. So the more I know about myself, the more I'll know about what I should be creating. And that's something, actually, it's one of the first lessons we teach in the Blue Belt program, which is understanding yourself. So, you know, the Green Belt program really focuses very heavily on SEO. Like, I dedicate several videos to understanding how to put a strategy together, and then how to basically understanding how the YouTube system works. Then we get into the more in-depth coaching with understanding yourself, understanding your psychology, your biology, understanding what about you is compelling and how compelling are you, and what is compelling? What is the definition of that? Okay, so that's in these programs. But if you can't be in the programs, then just start by reading the books. Start by taking the personality test and get the feedback. All right, because then when you know yourself, you realize, okay, maybe making, you know, certain types, maybe making jackass videos would work for you because you have a personality where you get a huge kick out of that. All right, so the more you can study about things that'll help you understand yourself, the better off you will be. It's like what Wells said, just keep reading, never stop learning. All right, iFlames, have a good one, my friend. Dark Feather says, I notice you read a lot, assuming you are older than me, but I'm young and hate reading right now. Is reading books somehow fun when you're older? Well, here's the deal. I mean, I'm gonna give you something. This may be a little hard to hear, but it's gonna be good for you. If I told you that, if I came to you and said, if you don't read this book in the next 30 days, I don't want to say anything too morbid, but if somebody came, let's say it's not me, because I don't want it to be associated with me. Let's say somebody came and put a gun to your head and said, read this book or I'm going to squeeze the trigger. Would you find a way to read the book? The answer is yes, of course, because your desire to live is stronger than your desire to not read. And what a wise man once said is, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to keep breathing, you'll succeed. So are you going to like reading more? Maybe not, but it's got to be done in order for you to get knowledge. Now, here's the good news in that. Going back to what Peter Drucker says, if anybody's heard me harp about this book a billion times, I read this book almost as much as I read my Bible. Okay, that's how powerful this book is. So maybe you are not a person who gets information well from reading. Maybe you're better at watching videos or listening to eBooks. Okay, that's number one. Understand that sitting down and reading an actual book may not work for you. Maybe you need to listen to a book or watch video discussions about a book. Okay, I do that a lot in the program, especially in the VIP program. We build books into the curriculum. So there's that. The second half of it is, when I was growing up, I hated reading. I hated it. I hated reading growing up. So did I get older and all of a sudden start enjoying reading more? No. What happened was I stopped reading crappy books. And when you start reading good books, you enjoy them because they're good books. A lot of the stuff that you were given to read as a kid was garbage. You know, not all of it. I'm sure you probably had to read To Kill a Mockingbird. I hated that book. Good God, I'd rather wrestle a bear than read that again. Not saying it's a bad book. I just didn't care. So what you have to do, one, is find the right books. That's one. Two, you need to figure out if actually reading works for you or if you need to listen to books, audio books, because people learn in different ways. Some people learn by reading. Some people learn by writing. Some people learn by listening. And some people, this dude here, learn by talking. So these sessions that I do here actually help me because I'm learning information because I'm talking about it. All right? So no, when you get older, you're not just gonna magically like reading more. You got to find the books that are actually good. Everything I have up here is worth reading, and I think you enjoy it. But you also have to understand that reading is not necessarily. I mean, think about how humans have evolved over the years. Like the way we captured information, even 2,000 years ago, maybe a little bit further back than that, wasn't necessarily through writing books. Actually, quite a bit longer ago than that. You go back thousands of years in the way that we past information was through storytelling and song. It's why music. It's one of the reasons why music is so compelling, because we've, as a culture as humans, we've evolved to have music be a part of our survival. So you just need to figure out how you need to process the information. So Dark Feather says, the last book I read was yours, but it was fun reading that book. So that's exactly, by the way, thank you for the compliment. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you're reading something you like, the problem is, the issue is not that you don't like reading, it's that you don't like what you're reading. Because I guarantee you, you've read gaming magazines that you enjoyed. Why did you enjoy them? Because they talked about crap that you cared about. It wasn't some stupid history book that was trying to teach you American history and left out everything that mattered. You know, or tried to teach you about world history and conveniently leaves out the fact that Africa just ransacked Europe back in the 6th or 7th century. We're going to leave that out because that's a touchy subject. You know, I mean, it's like the stuff we've been given to read since we were children is half the time it's stupid, or we're not given the materials to read in a way that we understand how we're going to apply them, so there's no purpose in the reading. It's just read so you can pass this test and get into a college so you can go get a job somewhere. I mean, what type of existence is that? What's the motivation? To not be homeless? Like, I got to a point where when I was in school, I was like, the only reason I keep coming to this joint is because I've been told that if I don't, I'll be homeless one day. If I don't come to school every day and learn all this crap that I don't care about. And it wasn't that I didn't care about the knowledge, it was that nobody was showing me how I'm going to apply any of this knowledge to my real life. Archduke Francis Ferdinand getting assassinated in World War I, I don't care about that, dude. What is that? What is me knowing that, or knowing the state flag of California, going to help me do anything in life? It's certainly not going to help me add value to people's lives. Like, could you imagine that in a coaching session? I'm with somebody whose life is falling apart and I'm trying to help them put it back together. And I'm like, well, did you know that the California national state flower was the freaking lily cup or whatever? I don't know what it is. Clearly, I didn't pay attention to that day in class. Did you know that the capital of Virginia is Richmond? They're going to look at me like I'm insane. And that's why a lot of people don't like reading, because that's how it was given to you. Was you went to a school system that was designed to turn you into a factory worker, because we haven't evolved schools in 60 years. And that's not entirely true. Schools have been trying to evolve, but the spirit behind the way we're teaching needs to evolve, not the systems and the technology. Technology is a tool. It doesn't fix when you have foundational problems. I don't care how much technology you have. Having a better microphone is not going to help your YouTube channel be better when your content sucks, because you have nothing interesting to talk about. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general. Yeah, I hated school, man. I'm not going to lie about it. I had a handful of really good teachers that kept me in the game, but there weren't many of them. And the funny thing is, the ones that kept me in the game, I still am in contact with those teachers to this day. Like, I thank them personally, because I still keep contact with the teachers who changed my life, the ones that I've been able to find. And I was like, look, you had a hand in keeping me in the game, because I was ready to clock out and just go work on a farm. Like, no. And I don't know jack about agriculture, but I hated school. You know, I tell my kids that all the time. Like, my oldest son, when he was in kindergarten, is like, Dad, why are you sending me to this thing every day? What am I doing there? And like, I was fishing for, God, how do I end? Like, he's not even 6, and he's figured out that this is a sham. And by the way, I'm not trying to crap on schools. There are a lot of great teachers who I'm very appreciative of, and this isn't political speak, this is me being for real, who take time out of their lives to give back to children like mine. I'm not fussing at the teachers. I am disillusioned with the system that they find themselves in. It needs to evolve. It needs to better prepare people for the modern world, and it doesn't. Our school system was based upon sending people to work in factories and to be laborers, not to build entrepreneurs, not to build thought leaders. Okay, and that's starting to change, but the change is a bit too slow. And so, you know, what I'm doing with my kids is I'm supplementing, you know, I supplement. What part of what I do here is because you should have learned half of this stuff that I just taught you tonight, you should have learned in 6th grade. You should have. There's no reason. A sixth grader could totally watch everything I just said tonight and apply that to his or her life. Without question. Don't make money your focus. Don't make fame your focus. Make adding value to the world your focus. Figure out how you best add value, and thus money and fame will probably follow if you work hard enough and long enough. A sixth grader could have comprehended that. But what class did you sit in school where they taught you that? Not a single one. Because we focus on the things in this world that just don't matter. That's why shows like Jackass can exist and be more popular than people who are teaching things like this that can actually help your life. Anyway, get off this soapbox. All right, are there any more questions, or you guys just want to be entertained by me ranting about school systems and YouTube sadness? Any more questions? That's true. They don't teach you how to do your taxes in school. They don't teach you how to balance a budget. Actually, I think home ec started teaching that at some point, but whatever. I know more about Archduke Francis Ferdinand than I do about the economy. Like, how are we not teaching kids about the economy? Like, I talk about economics with gamers all the time because it's clear the ones who scream about all the evil don't really understand how capitalism and economics works. And it's hard to have that conversation because they don't know it. And it's like, I'm not trying to argue with this person or make them feel bad. I'm trying to actually impart something to them. But it's so far beyond what they're thinking about because they've never been in, like, the first time they've heard about this is from me. And they're angry at me because I made a comment that they didn't like. Anyway, so if there's no more questions, I'm done ranting. Hopefully, don't sleep on this, guys. If this is something you want to do, you need to get in here and make it happen. Okay? At least at the green belt level. If it's a money thing, let's talk about it. All right? And I don't mean here publicly. Like, if you're a single mom with 19 children, let's have the discussion. Like, don't just walk away and think that I'm some tyrant that's all about money. Like, there are people in my program who I've had to work with because I know their life situation, okay? This isn't about the money. Do not sleep on this because I'm telling you, this price right here and this price, this is certainly not going to be zero come November. And this is going to be $4.97. So those of you that send me messages like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting into your program, stop dragging your feet. Get in it and make it happen, all right? You're now getting basically $250 worth of gear for $144. All right, gear, it's worth of education and training. All right, and then if you can get in the VIP program, and I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'm trying to say this is one way I can add more value. Like, look at how much value you got here without paying a dime, and then that won't change. But think about how much more you're going to get. Like, I hear people say all the time, what could you possibly be teaching the people behind the scenes if you're giving this much away for free? That's what you got to pay the fee to find out. All right, so don't sleep on this. I don't sell this because I need the money. Believe me, I do this because I love it. But I do sell it because I believe in it. And I believe it's worth way more than what I charge. In fact, it's going to be worth more than $4.97 when I'm done. Because, by the way, I'm not done building it yet. Like, this is why I'm not going to write a third book. Like, I have a second book that most of you don't know about because it's for a different audience. But I'm not writing any more books because I can just continue making videos forever and continue to add value to these programs. So that when you get in these things, you're in them forever until the internet shuts off, or I get told to shut the website down, which that's not going to happen. All right. So, and remember, it's 30 days. If you get in it, it's not working for you, or your life changes. You know, if your car gets struck by lightning and you got to buy new tires, whatever. Holler at me. All right. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to serve all of you. Remember, as always, that we, and I mean this, are stronger than I. I love you guys. I will see you soon. Double checking to make sure I didn't miss any other questions. I didn't. Excellent. I'll catch you guys on the next one, which will probably be next Friday, because and here's the deal, the VIP call we're getting ready to do next week, bruh. Oh my goodness, the stuff that I'm about to bring to the table in the VIP call are folks that pay anywhere from, because some people got in early, they pay anywhere from $5 to $25 a month. This VIP call, and it's only for the people in the private programs who are paying the monthly fee. You don't want to miss that, because I'm getting ready to teach people how to actually earn revenue outside of making videos by doing different types of marketing and selling products, whether it's their own products or even selling other people's products in a way that's not slimy, or you have to feel, I don't want to sell this to whatever. We're going to be talking about human psychology and why there's certain things that if you want to be successful perpetually on YouTube, you're going to have to understand about. Picking your niche is not just about picking something off a wall. You got to pick something that you can personally win at, and I'm going to show you the elements of that. All right, and then there's a couple other things. I'm going to talk about the anatomy of a new channel, where basically how do you grow when you only have 0 views and 0 subscribers? What do you do when you're just starting to get your niche, but also start to get the viewership and the momentum you need to succeed? All right, so don't drag your feet, get it done. I love you guys. We'll talk soon. Peace.